I'm ready to go, and what I'm going to be doing is I did my chalk lines, and I also went behind and used a permanent marker to mark the line. Because we get so much humidity and rain here, sometimes the lines disappear. So I wanted to make sure that they didn't disappear. But what I'm going to be doing is doing an 1.5 inch cut in, all the way down and all the way around. So it's going to be, I'm going to have to do this twice. So I'm going to be cutting 90 feet to go all the way around, and then I'll have to come back and do another cut, because not only do I have to cut it on the top, I'm going to have to cut it on the side as well. 1.5 inches in and 1.5 inches down all the way around, and that's in order to get the side panels on to where they go past the top of the floor, and then basically the rain will come down here and then drain, versus draining at or running off at floor level. I've got all my top cuts done all the way around the perimeter except this front side. The front side is last. This whole part right here is going to be cut out all the way to there. I'll be cutting out from there all the way to here, and then this is where the big door is, so I'm not cutting any of this out. And then I'll cut that portion out. Since the siding is going to be going down 1.5 inches past, that'll be cut out. The door, I don't need to cut that out because this will have a door and not have siding. Siding will be between here and here. I made this pad for the steps up to go in the 36-inch door, so I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to cut this yet, because if I cut all the way across, then what I'm going to have to do, cut this, cut this, cut this, and then cut this, and then I'll have this gap here. But the other thing is getting that piece out. It may prove a little difficult. I'm sure it can be done, but otherwise what will happen is I'll have to trim the siding that comes down just from here to here, which is not as bad as having to trim all of them. And then what I do on that side, I will have to do on this side as well. And again, I'm not sure if I should just cut all the way to here, cut this way, cut this way, cut this way, and then knock that piece out, or attempt to knock that piece out. I just know that underneath this is not going to be nice and flat. Sometimes it turns out that way, but sometimes it doesn't. I do have this 1.5 inch deep top cut, and I could take a hammer and hit this and break it off. The problem is this is one continuous piece, so I would have to put some relief cuts. But even with some relief cuts, if I start hitting this, it'll break off, but it may not break off clean, and it may also lead to a whole bunch of extra work to fix it, because the way this typically breaks is, yeah, it'll break off, but it could be like all crooked and everything, and it's just going to make it a pain in the butt to repair. So I am gonna do an 1.5 inch cut in all the way down again. So I got 1, 2, 3 sides, and then I'll do this side last. So this is what happens. I've got a cut here and a cut here, so I'm going to tap that with a hammer just to show what happens. No guarantee that it's going to break off nice and clean. In that case, it's pretty close to nice and clean, but when you're working with smaller pieces, it's a lot easier. Can't guarantee that the rest of it will break the same way. I would have to keep putting relief cuts and then tapping it all the way down. I'm about halfway on this side, and as you make the cut, once you get to one of the joints, the piece tends to just fall right off from the vibration. I guess it separates the mortar from the block, so as you cut across, pieces fall off, and you can see some pieces right here. So as I go along, they're just going to fall off. This does take a little bit longer, and one of the things you have to pay attention to is you want to make sure you're flat against the block. There is a tendency to push up on it, and if you're pushing up on it, then what you're going to do is you're going to create a lip that's going to be slanted upward, and then you're going to have water that's going to sit in there. So you do want to make sure that you're cutting nice and flat. I've got almost 2 sides done. That whole side needs to be done, and then pieces of that side. So I'm just going to knock this off with the hammer, and then we had a piece down there where I couldn't get the circular saw in there. I may just have to tap that off. Then I'll go to that side and then finish up on that side over there. This isn't cutting exactly straight because the top isn't flat, and then there's pieces that on the side prevent it from cutting all the way. But I'll go back over and get all this extra stuff. I'm still not finished because my circular saw could not go past that step right there. I need to go all the way in, so I'm gonna need to use my grinder with a diamond cutoff wheel on it that I just went out and got. But since I didn't have it at the time, what I did is I used this diamond grinding wheel to go along the inside corner just to round it off, and you can see where there needs to be some fill in. And what I'll do is I'll mix up some mortar. I'll probably just put a glove on and just rub it in on all those voids, because I definitely don't want it to cause any kind of intrusion with water and bugs and everything else. So I'll just slop some mortar in there. Well, not slop it in, but I'll rub it in there, get it closed up. The other thing is, because that end over there still needs to be done, couldn't do it with the circular saw because, again, the ground is too high all along here, so I would have to dig it out in order to use my circular saw. So I'm hoping I can use my 4 or 4.5 inch diamond cutting wheel on my grinder and just go along here and cut this off. Otherwise I got to dig it all out. I was using this grinder with a cutoff wheel, but I've already gone through 2 of these batteries and I'm only 1/3 of the way, so I had to go get another grinder, this Makita. I'll try to use that one, and it's corded, so I don't have to worry about batteries. My cuts across the top were supposed to be 1.5 inches deep, and in most cases the cuts were 1.5 inches deep. The only problem is that the concrete on the top was not perfectly flat, and you can see here, and it's pretty common all the way across, that for some reason when they came over they didn't go all the way to the edge. They kind of somewhat blended, but did a poor job of blending it into the header block. So because the cut on the top is not exactly 1.5 inches deep all the way across, when I cut the side, the 1.5 inch cut is flatter because I'm going right against concrete block. So what I end up with is stuff like this, where it's all broken up and not matched. So what I have to do is take the grinder in there and grind it out, make it a little bit smoother, and then I'll put the mortar in.